Good day, and thank you for tuning in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast. For all of our new listeners and viewers who are tuning in for the very first time, I'm Pastor Pope, and thank you for allowing us to come into your viewing environment. We are here with you every Monday through Friday from 12:30 p.m. until 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, broadcasting live from the FijiWater.com sponsored studio, where you can discuss careers, finances, entrepreneurship. You can discuss marriage, divorce, raising children, blending families. You can discuss dating and relationships, whatever's in your heart, whatever's on your mind. God is concerned about that which concerns you. And so we are here with you in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast from 12:30 p.m. until 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Monday through Friday, right here, broadcasting live from the FijiWater.com sponsored studio, where our broadcast is brought to you daily by Fiji Water, Earth's finest water. You may already know that Fiji Water comes from Fiji. However, did you know that it is created by nature? It is untouched by man. It starts as a tropical rainfall which slowly filters through layers of volcanic rock, where the water collects in a natural, sustainable artesian aquifer where it is bottled right at the source, free from human contact until you unscrew the blue cap. Fiji Water, Earth's finest water, will be delivered right to your front door when you subscribe for delivery, and you will save money at FijiWater.com. This is not just ordinary water. This is Earth's finest water at FijiWater.com. And for those of you who continue giving on the give segment of our app at New Life-Delaware, and those of you that have made a weekly or monthly commitment to support the broadcast by giving on the contribution pages of our websites at NewLifeMinistriesInternational.com and NewLifeInternationalCDC.com, and those of you that use the QR code or the link provided on Facebook and YouTube, we thank all of you for your commitment and for your support as we fulfill our commitment to God to be here for you in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast. I want to make an announcement today just to remind everyone. First of all, we are Facebook Live. We are YouTube Live at Daily Divine Direction. And we are going to be broadcasting on New Year's Eve from 6:30 p.m. until 8 p.m. Well, we'll be going live during the 6:30 p.m. and 8 p.m. We have our candlelight service at New Life Christian Center, 400 Hillcrest Avenue, Wilmington, Delaware, 19809. I don't like anyone being out on New Year's Eve night because it's amateur night in the city. And so we have a candlelight service. We invite you to come worship with us. We invite you to come and just share what you're thankful for in this year and what you're looking forward to in the year to come. And then, of course, we'll be back in service on New Year's Day at New Life Christian Center, 400 Hillcrest Avenue, Wilmington, Delaware. There's parking on Hillcrest. We are the brown brick building located right on the corner of Hillcrest and Marsh Road. And service always begins every Sunday at 10 a.m. We go live on our YouTube channel at New Life Christian Center Pastor Pope at 10:45 a.m. on Sunday. So we're going to bring in the new year. You don't want to miss this. We are going to really make certain that everyone is prepared to go into the new year. And then as we go into the new year, we're going to be making a commitment to become the better versions of ourselves that we can possibly become. So I want to remind everyone, we are asking everyone to continue staying connected with us throughout the week. We are broadcasting live on our internet radio station, WKAP Faith Empowerment Radio, at WKAPfaith.com. You can tune in. We play music 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We are going to be expanding some of our offerings as we go into the new year, so stay with us. You don't want to miss. Come along for the ride. It's going to be a glorious time in the year to come. The year has been absolutely amazing, and we are going to continue moving forward, being amazed by God. So stay tuned in on both our YouTube channels at Daily Divine Direction, Monday through Friday from 12:30 p.m. until 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and New Life Christian Center Pastor Pope on our YouTube channel and our internet radio station, WKAPfaith.com. I'm going to address a communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who, your question for me was, how do you, there's two parts to this. So you said, how do you become wealthy? You really don't want to live your life in mediocrity. Okay. And some of you have heard me talk about this before, about not living in mediocrity. That's not what God wants for us. Contrary to popular belief, and then we don't want to treat God like a genie in the Bible. You can't rub the Bible 3 times and Jesus pops out to grant you 3 wishes. That's not how this works. You want to know, how do you become wealthy? So you've heard me talk about saving and investing. You also wanted to know, how do you find someone who wants the same thing that you want, who doesn't want to just live his life in mediocrity. So I'm going to take you through a couple of points because I want to make certain that you get this, but I also want this to be good, a blessing for all of our listeners and viewers. So let's start with you. First and foremost, okay, you indicated in your communication, you're a college graduate, you have your master's degree. You got your MBA, so the more you learn, the more you earn. So you're not at the level you want to be, but you are at a level where you have a good income. So that's first and foremost. Now it can't be about just about how much money you make. It has to be how much of that you preserve. And then after you preserve, you have to invest. And the way that you want to invest is, you want to invest in the stock market, you want to invest in real estate, and you can look and see if there's something you desire to do from an entrepreneurial perspective that will allow you to maximize your return on investment. Okay. First and foremost, faith without works is dead. So when you say you want to do that and you don't want to live a life in mediocrity, okay, so think about this. You say you came, in your communication, you said you came from a household that had 2 working parents. Okay, so that's great. You've got a foundation for a work ethic. That's the first thing. And then you've gotten your education. So you've begun the process of building wealth. But the problem is, you have good income, but you have poor spending habits. And what I mean by that is, you don't look at your income from an asset management perspective. You look at it from the perspective of, I'm making money so I can do the things that I want to do. I have a career. Okay, you have a career. You don't just have a job. You have a career. And you're saying to yourself, so if I'm making this much money, and after taxes, this is what I take home, then I can spend this much money. Do you save any? Yes, you've got some savings. That's good. But that's where you stop. And if that's where you stop, that's where you're stuck. If you aren't going to invest in the stock market, if you're not going to invest in real estate, if you're not going to seek entrepreneurship in some sector of business, then you're going to stop your growth. You'll save some money, you'll go on trips, you'll have a good time with your friends, but that's not going to lead to wealth. That's only going to lead to, I'm living my life and I'm working every day. And that's where you get stuck in mediocrity. So let me make sure that I'm clear about this. There are people who go through life and are perfectly content with mediocrity. The problem with that is you are not living your life to glorify God. You're not inspiring anyone else to be better. You're just being you. And there's some people who are content with that. You know, the Bible tells us the poor will always be among us. Now, you're not poor, but if you're spending more than you are investing, you're finally going to end up someday depending on the government to take care of you. I'm going to use an analogy, and I'll get to your question about a mate, but I'm going to use an analogy that I'll share something that my grandfather shared with me when I was a young boy. I was probably 12 years old. And he said to me, whatever you do, don't depend on the government to take care of you when you're older. First of all, Social Security won't look the way it looks today. Second of all, Social Security is not for you to live on. It was to supplement. It was to supplement as you get older. But even in that, you don't want that to become a dependable factor. And this is one of the things that I'm constantly telling people. You may not maximize your wealth until the Lord calls you home, but you'll be able to enjoy your wealth along the way because you'll keep building wealth. See, the problem is society it's real interesting. You know, we have a lot of conversations about this in my family. My immediate family, meaning my wife, my two children. So one of the things that we talk about is that society has done us a lot of damage by teaching us, when I say us, meaning mankind, the wrong thought process. And so then we had to work to renew our thought process. Now, I have to tell you, I didn't just come from humble beginnings. I came from a life that was, you know, I always use the analogy. I grew up in the hood. And the reason that I use that analogy is because people get a quick understanding of that. And consequently, I could see what I didn't want for my life. You know, my parents, even though they weren't together, did the best they could. You know, the reality is that they did the best they could do. The rest I had to do myself. So every day of my life has been spent not trying to live. Now, I realize every generation is supposed to be better than the generation before them. But every day of my life has been spent not having to live the life I grew up in. And the reason is because, yes, I wanted to be better than the generation before me. In other words, achieve more. But in addition to that, I knew that someday I'd want to get married, have children, and I wouldn't want my children to have to endure the experience I endured as a child. You know, never went to bed hungry, had something to eat, whether it was, you know, spaghetti in a pot and chili in a pot and, you know, sloppy joes and french fries on a Friday and then waited for a big dinner on Sunday, you know, of you know, a whole dinner. But the reality was, you know, lights were on. I never came in and hit the light switch and the lights didn't come on. Was never had anybody knock on the door and say, you got to get out. So we just didn't have much. So every day of my life has been spent living to be a better version of myself. Now, obviously, as a, you know, now as a pastor and having the experience and relationship with the Lord, I understand that all I need to do now is search His will, because it's going to be better than what I'm searching for. But now I understand that I have to live my life to glorify God. so that someone else behind me can be inspired. You know, first your children, obviously, and then someone, that your loved ones, people that you know, will look at your life and be inspired. And always to God be the glory. See, because if you make it about you, then it becomes about you. And then what you teach others is it's about them, but it's really not about them. It's about glorifying God. So you have begun the process, but now we're going into a new year. So this is why I made certain to address this one first. We're going into a new year. Now you've got to renew your mind and stop thinking about the things that you can do because you want to do them, and start thinking about what you can do to achieve the life that you desire to live long term. And that should be in the fullness of God. Now, I'm at a place in my life where I am experiencing the fullness of God, and I've worked on maximizing the fullness of God, because what that means is for the next generation and the generation after them unto the fourth and fifth generation. So, you know, those are the things I focus on for my life personally, the life of my family, and for those whom are not in a position to do it for themselves. That's where, you know, that's what the philanthropic endeavors, that's where that comes in. But then you've got to find someone to be equally yoked with. So you've got to get there first, and that's part of the preparation for being a wife, being a helpmate. And then you've got to, and I said find. It's not your job to find. But someone has to find you that has the same goals, the same desire that you have to maximize the fullness of God. And the only way you're going to know that is to know what his relationship is with the Lord. Does he want to live to glorify God? When we live to glorify God, we inspire others to be better. You know, this whole thing we've been doing, teaching people, miseducating people the wrong way, that's what society has taught us to do. But if we live our lives to glorify God, we're going to inspire others to glorify him also. That whatever they do is going to bring him glory, because you couldn't do it without him. Can't do it without health. Can't do it without strength. Can't do it without a sound mind. You can't even do it without peace, because if you don't have peace, there's going to be an internal struggle that will keep you from maximizing externally what God has purposed for your life. So we've got to navigate all these components, and yet we've got society telling us, do this. You should try this. Have a good time over here. Have a good time, you know, and they come up with these trends. Every trend cycles itself, and then it's on to the next trend, and we fall right into the trap of the trend. You know, it was rooftop parties, and it may still be rooftop parties. Then it was day parties, and then it was hookah lounges, and then there's always something to distract us from what God has appointed us to do and purposed us to do, and that's to glorify him. And in order to glorify him, remember what Jesus said. Christ himself said, glorify me that I may glorify you. And what he wasn't saying, give me glory. What he was saying is, make certain that my life will glorify you. Make certain that what I do is going to glorify you. Make certain that what I'm doing for you is going to glorify you. And if we do that, we're going to become the best version of ourselves that we can possibly become. But you need to make certain that as you begin this next portion of the journey, right? So think about this. People will tell you take early retirement at 62. I'm not a believer in that. I think you should maximize. You don't ever want to leave money on the table. You should maximize your Social Security. I don't care where you are. You should maximize your Social Security. That's the first thing. I'm not your financial advisor, but that's my perspective, because you don't ever want to leave money on the table. And when we develop habits, bad habits, when we develop poor habits, we develop poverty. We develop poor things. All right, so think about this. If you've hit 30, you're in your mid 30s, you're halfway over. You're only halfway to life. To really put in the work that will allow you to maximize over the next 35 years, to maximize the quality of your life. God willing that we shall live. But you got to make certain that whoever you yoke with has the same goals, the same mind that's in Christ. So you've got to know his relationship with the Lord. This segment of the broadcast is brought to you by T-Mobile, America's largest, fastest, and most reliable 5G provider at no extra charge. So if you are not currently a T-Mobile customer, you may call or text on the T-Mobile call or text line at 267-992-1424. We will move you into our queue so that you may become a T-Mobile customer and experience America's largest, fastest, and most reliable 5G provider at no extra charge. Taxes and fees are included in your bill, and if you auto pay by attaching a credit card to your account, you will receive a discount on your monthly bill. At T-Mobile, America's largest, fastest, and most reliable 5G provider. And this segment is also brought to you by PorscheAmerica.com. If you're in the market for one of the finest high-performance automobiles ever manufactured, go to PorscheAmerica.com. You will be able to virtually build out the type of Porsche that you desire to own. And if you're in our area, you can go to PorscheDelaware.com. Ask to speak to Mike Didio, who is the general manager of Porsche Delaware. He will make certain that you are taken care of and that someone helps you to select the vehicle, the Porsche that you desire to own. And if you're in our area and you currently own a Porsche and are just in need of service, go to PorscheDelaware.com. Ask to speak to Mike Adams, who is the service manager of PorscheDelaware.com. He will make certain that an appointment is scheduled for you. They will pick up your vehicle and drop off a loaner vehicle at your home or office and return your vehicle to you once your service has been completed. I'm going to address another communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who indicated, all right, so let me say this. There's been a lot of questions about wealth. There's been a lot of questions about relationships. I know we're going into the new year, so I really want to take a moment to share with all of our listeners and viewers this. You hear me talk a lot about building wealth, wealth preservation, wealth capital allocation. You hear me talk a lot about this because it is not my desire to feed people with thoughts that are going to keep you bound in a place of mediocrity. I don't believe that that's my calling in life. God has been so good to me that I don't believe that that's his purpose for my life. He has shown me, and we've recorded, we've documented the vision that God has given. And in order for us to further the vision, God continues being so good to me. The goal then becomes to push everyone else forward, to make others realize that you can't just talk a good game. Let me use some analogies that are going to ring home to you. You can't just talk about building wealth. You've got to work to build wealth. You've got to put in the effort and the work to research and continuously work to build wealth. Your goal has to be to work, generate revenue, preserve the revenue or income, and then invest. That has to be the target. That has to be the goal. And that has to be the goal continuously. It can't just be a part-time thing. You have to be fully committed to it. And so when one of our listeners and viewers asked the question about, when things don't go your way financially, is it okay then to spend what you saved? That's called an emergency fund. That's not about building wealth. But once you have some money put aside for emergency, then you focus on continuing to build wealth. And the reason is because your life you become an ambassador for Christ, but your life becomes the glorification of God. So the way you live your life is going to glorify God. It's going to praise him for what he's done in your life and worship him for his greatness. Because without him, you can't be great. And great is relative for everyone. Everyone's greatness is not the same. But that's where the analogy becoming the best version of yourself comes from, because you can only be as great as God desires you to be. And for whatever reason, God knows what everyone's level of greatness that they're capable of handling. Now, we take examples away from everyone else that we encounter from their life. But, however, their life is not your life is not their life, and we have to, every one of us, put in the best. There's an old adage, put your best foot forward. You've got to put in your best every single day, 100% of the time. That's not a cliche. No excuses, no exceptions. That's not a cliche, that's a mantra. Excuses are the tools of incompetent men and women to build monuments of nothing. We don't want to live our lives making excuses for making poor decisions over and over again that result in poverty. We've got to be living to be better every single day. And that's why I'm so excited about the year that is coming to an end, because it's been a great year. God has been so good and so merciful to us all. Think about this. A year ago we were coming out of a pandemic, right? And God kept us all through the pandemic. All of us that are still here, if you're listening to my voice today, if you're viewing the broadcast today, you're still here. God was merciful, kept us from dangers seen and unseen. And now we've lived another year after the pandemic. COVID isn't going anywhere. Coronavirus is still present. You got to be careful. You still got to wash your hands and wear a mask and all of those things if you want to be as careful as you want to be. But the truth of the matter is that it's been a great year, and now there's a new year ahead of us. And my expectation, and I hope your expectation is also, that next year will even be better than this year. And to God be the glory. So I want everyone to meditate on the thought that being the best you can become, maximizing your success, experiencing the fullness of God in all of our lives will glorify God. Jesus said, glorify me that I may glorify you. That doesn't mean bring you glory. That doesn't mean make your name blinking in lights. It just means that let my life be an inspiration to others so that I can glorify you. Today's Daily Divine Direction broadcast 3D has been brought to you by Fiji Water. A taste of paradise will be delivered right to your front door when you subscribe for delivery, and you'll save money at FijiWater.com. May God bless you today. May God keep his face turned towards you. May God give you peace that surpasses all understanding. Have a great day today. I look forward to being in your listening and viewing